So are we ready to, in a way, to stop pretending that we know, to stop this grasping mechanism? Again, nobody can really stop because, again, nobody will have the leverage for that. But these meetings, this gives a possibility of a recognition, which is a stopping creating a story of separation, stopping labeling, stopping, and in this stopping, in this unknowing, in this silence, which is not even the absence of sound, which is the silence that is the absence of the presence and the absence of sound. Could we rest in that and just be simply at ease with that? And it's joyful. Intuitively, we sense it, that the Ananda part is not a dry, detached. It cannot be detached. Everything is so close, so intimate. It is intimacy. It's not anymore, a cold aloofness of the witness. It is being exactly at the root of life. And that's not something that we need to do. It's done all the time, because that's the only thing that exists. So maybe the only thing that needs to be doing is to stop doing stupid things, pretending to be separate and pretending to be looking for ourselves. This is ridiculous.
I'm sitting in some then there come a grasping and a little fear. Then I so
you see.
Yeah, I don't know, because then...
Okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever you're going to say are going to be taking elements, objects, fears. It's an object. That starts, that stops. Disbelief, that starts, that stops. Idea about yourself as a body or as a mind or as a location, that starts, that stops. So anything that you're going to create around that cannot pretend to be the subject. So it's going to be just another construction, another construction, another construction. Why? Because it's such a habit that's the only thing we have been doing our own life, actually. Can we have a glimpse that this habit is actually damaging us, damaging what we really are, in a way of bringing such a level of confusion and suffering, that just stopping that. I'm not asking you to solve any problem or to become better or to become awakened or to, it's not the point. Just stop the story.
Yeah, so when the fear appears, and there's a tendency to go there and make one more thought or something, then is it then to... Yeah. So there is a tendency to do something.
The doing is not a problem by itself. If doing happens, and that's all what is happening all the time, that's great. There is no problem with doing things. The habit we have is that there is a sense of I should do something to get out of it. And this sentence by itself contains the creation of the one, of the seeker, that has to do to get somewhere. And that's not the point. This is the hamster wheel I was talking at the beginning. So what is the jump? What is the jump? How can you get... fear comes, I need to get out of the fear. What is the jump? What is the possibility of jumping out of the wheel?
To ask who is jumping.
To ask if there is anybody inside the hamster wheel. To ask if the hamster wheel is just not another story of hamster wheel. It doesn't really concern you. Because the you where I'm talking about is not linked to the hamster, to the fear, or to anything. Those are objects coming in and out. So what remains then? That is so obvious. So the fear can come. Obviously, there would be a moment of fear. Even sometimes deep, intense fear, because there is a whole system of values, of balance in life that are actually getting challenged. But okay, this is just, look at that as a hamster wheel, and that doesn't concern you. And if you start imagining that you are actually located inside the hamster wheel, then there is no end. There is no end, because there will be no answer within that. There will be no answer within that framework. For example, what shall I do as Didier to get out of the hamster wheel? This is a question that gives more speed to the hamster wheel. Yeah. So forget about the question there. What remains? So again, without the stories, and I'm not saying that there should not be the story, because that's the beauty of life. There's so many beautiful stories. But I'm just saying, it seems that one specific story can be dropped out, and in a way, life becomes so the same and utterly different at the same time. Okay? Because it's the same elements, but the reading is absolutely reversed in a way. So no questions from the French corner? Usually there are a lot of questions, but a lot of buts. Vas-y, tu peux me dire en français, je traduis. Ouais. Okay, I'll translate.
Il me semble que le plus important dans ce que tu viens de décrire, c'est ce que tu as dit juste avant, que cette personne parle, c'est que cet état d'esprit ne produit pas une sécheresse ou une neutralité totale, une indifférenciation, mais de la manda, une joie sans cause.
Yes. So I'm translating, just one step. So what's your name? Claude. What Claude says is that basically important part in his experience that this understanding brings is that it's not dry, it's not flavorless, it's not something that is transparent, that is like a high state of aloofness, but it's full of life and meat actually in a way. It's very, it's full, it's not empty actually. Yeah.
Je dis ça parce que j'ai senti un tout début de cette joie qui arrive.
Yeah. So he was talking about the causeless joy that is there, which is another maybe expression of Ananda. Yeah. Yeah, because what is the joy there? It is the joy of just the simple fact of being alive, the aliveness. This is so forgotten our whole life, actually. We take that for granted all the time, and we pretend being something, and we just go on like... this is ridiculous, the reality of our existence here. It's a miracle. It's a total miracle. And sometimes we forget so deeply that we just... bitch around, and but staying with this this awe of what is life. We'll never know with concept, with answers, but we know in our deep experience. It's not even an experience, because to experience there will be to have parts. It is beyond experience, but it's still very much there. Actually, it is present. So it's not something that can be defined. Tu voulais dire autre chose, Claude? Non?
C'est peut-être juste aussi l'effet du silence, tout à coup.
Ouais. Yeah, silence, when it comes, it's kind of revealing the space that's in between the words, that is between the actions, between the thoughts. And in reality, this discovery, in a way, reveals this silence, which is beyond silence, beyond the sound silence, while there can be word, action, decision, the mess of life. So that's the realization. This realization we're talking about is that being able to carry on life in absolute, total silence. That's a paradox, but it's the way it is. That means what is expressing itself in all these colors, in all these sounds, in all these concepts. It is nothing else but silence, actually. And that's another word for presence, and it becomes more obvious in between, like the sky becomes more obvious between the clouds. But in this case, by recognizing fully the clouds as the sky as being our true, and true even, I'm not using that word, our background, our background of being, the clouds, whether they accumulate or not, don't make any difference. They're just clouds. And the silence is going to be there all the time.
Recently I experienced, I've been traveling for the last couple of months, and I experienced the silence I have when I look at beautiful nature settings, and I kind of discovered it's because when things are beautiful around me, my mind naturally tends to accept that it can't not add anything to the situation. And then it becomes quiet.
Yes.
And then I realized as soon as I sat in the more polluted environment, a disturbing environment, it was like possible for me to like accept that also when I'm first going there. This is what's going on. My mind wants to add something. It wants to take power over the situation. And it wants to, like, seeing the trash. It wants to, like, oh, it would be so beautiful it was not here. And that takes the peace away.
Correct. Well, that doesn't take the peace away. That covers the peace.
Yeah, exactly.
And because the peace is always here, so suddenly it seems that there's such a deep quote of thoughts and emotions and conclusions and whatever, that nothing is there anymore. It's just this horrible thing that happens. But still, the possibility here is that recognizing that any element, whether it's... so in a beautiful situation, yes, you talked about the absence of thought. And it's true, that can be a nice resonance, a nice entry point. Right? It's an entry point to beingness, let's say. But so it's more appealing. That's why we have a beautiful monastery and Zen centers with beautiful gardens, because they are entry points. But what we are talking here is not to stay locked in a cell for the rest of your life with a beautiful garden in front of you. So the trash and the garbage that is on the street is also part of the story. I mean, we all agree about that, I'm sure. But in any case, would the actual matter of the beautiful garden be different from the garbage? Yeah, would that which knows, obviously, I am the ground of being, and even this I am can disappear. We'll go into that later on. There is just this happening. Whether it is a beautiful garden or a pile of trash, would that make any difference? That makes a difference in the story, and maybe in your action to pick up the trash, to clean up the place, because that's your programming, and that goes on. That goes on. There is no need to say, oh, it's just an appearance of trash, I sit on it. So that's not a problem. But to feel that these thoughts that come and that have been triggered disconnect from what we are, because what we are is so-called pure beauty or silence and all that, is just associating thoughts. Again, objects. I'm talking about objects, and in a way forgetting that they are just that, just objects. And in a way, when it's seen through, when there is a real recognition, the interesting part is that these specific objects, that we call thinking, thought, they tend to disappear, because they exist mainly to create a sense of continuity. Sense of I am here and I keep on. So there is a thinking mind that Ramesh was talking about that goes on, to create a continuity between me having a drink, me talking, me going outside, etc. So there is the thinking process that's there to create, because otherwise we are not sure we exist as a separate entity. If there is no link, it seems so flimsy actually.